When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, the sea we must wade, we brave the belly of the beast. We learn that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what's just is somehow we do it, somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation isn't broken but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to form our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so, we lift our gazes not to what stands between us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms, so we reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone will sit under their olive vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we are to live up to our own time, then victory won't lighten the blade. But in all the bridges we've made, that is the promise to glade. The hill we climb, if only we dare, it is because being America is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we stepped into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust. For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared at its deception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. A country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our nation and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens. But one thing is certain, if we merge mercy with might and right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we left with. Every breath from my brown pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise through the gold-limbed hills of the west. We will rise from the wind-swept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwest states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation. In every corner called our country, our people diverse and beautiful. When day comes, We step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new day blooms as we free it, for there's always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. Thank you.
Tonight, I'll be reading a biographical sketch of Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday was born Eleanor Fagan on April 17, 1915. She is known as the greatest and most influential jazz singer of all time. Although she had no formal training in music and a limited singing range, she formulated a jazz style that made musicians and singers around the world marvel at her never-before-heard voice patterns. In 1928, she and her mother moved from Philadelphia to Harlem, where the rugged and most tragic occurrences of her life began and continued until her death. Billie Holiday's musical education was truly unconventional, shaped by the vibrant sounds of the city of Harlem. Billie honed her craft, appearing in speakeasies and nightclubs. She quickly embraced the improvisational world of jazz as she became a sensation. But even with her new-found fame and fortune, she could not escape the pain of a broken home, a father's love she could not have but longed for, and the daily life of a black woman living in a deeply segregated country. In a short time, Billie Holiday became the most sought-after singing sensation in America, and even today, she is still regarded as the voice for the ages. The music industry of the day was emblematic of the unfair treatment of black artists. So like many of her contemporaries, she fell into the well-laid contractual trap set by the record companies. Racism in the northern states at the time was very little different from the racists in the south. Billie toured with the best big bands, including Great Count Basie and Duke Ellington. Lady Day, as she was affectionately known, released her new success as her popularity spread quickly. And by the mid-1930s, she was a millionaire. It was around that time that she had recorded Strange Fruit, one of her many recordings. But unlike the other records, Strange Fruit was a song described very graphically the racist lynching of black people that were increasing daily in the South. She was paid a lot of money when she joined Artie Shaw's band, which was an all-white band. And when she was told she couldn't ride the same elevator as the white people, she became enraged and left the band. The pressures of success, work, love, or the lack thereof, and the struggles of a black woman in a racist white male-dominated environment was too much for her. She became dependent on drugs and alcohol in an attempt to cope. In the meantime, Strange Fruit was the rage throughout the country. Hearing that song angered most white people and shocked black people into the reality of their world. Unlucky in life, unlucky in love, on the 17th of July, 1959, at age 44, Billie Holiday died from drinking and drugs. Ladies and gentlemen, Strange Fruit by the incomparable Miss Billie Holiday.
Anybody know who wrote that?
The blackest thing in slavery was not the black man.
Nobody heard of it? But you know about Eric Williams?
Yes.
Right. And that was the final installment in his his volume, the volume that he had
historian. As we know, he's one of the most famous historians, as well as former president of Trinidad and Tobago. And in this volume, Eric Williams reflects on the institution of slavery from the ancient period in Europe down to the new African world in African slavery, and considers other forms of bondage. We'd have heard Cameron talk about some of the others, and including Japanese, Chinese, Indians, Pacific peoples in many locations around the world. Williams in this volume points out the ways in which this bondage led to European and American prosperity, and the manner in which the enslaved peoples created their own spaces. This they did through the preservation and revival of transported culture to the new locations. So the blackest thing in slavery makes a significant contribution in that it moves beyond African slavery. It continues the narrative after abolition by showing how the capitalist impulse enabled Europe and United States to devise other non-slavery ways of exploiting non-African people in the developing countries. These nations fought this movement, which gave mutual assistance in a number of areas, and in a number of ways we continue to deal with the fallout. But
good evening, everyone. The title of my poem is Man in the Glass. Man in the glass. When you get what you want in your struggle for self and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. Some people may think you are straight and chum and call you a powerful guy, but the man in the mirror says you're only a self-centered bum if you can't look at him straight in the eye. He's the fellow to please. Never mind the rest, for he is with you right up to the end. And you've passed your most difficult and dangerous test. If the man in the mirror is your friend, you may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass. But your final reward will be heartaches and tears if you have cheated the man in the glass.
thank you, Shadira, Man in the Mirror, and the woman too. And I now invite, is Pastor Howard ready? He's coming? Or give him some warm welcome as he comes. He just published that book, Songs of Simon. Yes. You got your copy yet? Welcome, Pastor Simon.
All right, thank you very much, Lady Banks. I'm deeply delighted just to be here tonight. I have learned to say no, but not as yet to Mona. So whatever she asks me to do, I'm a man on the orders. So I want to share with you our two poems tonight. And one is entitled Repressive Recklessness, and the other one, Who Locked the Boys Out? Irresponsibility. This one is repressive recklessness. Irresponsibility has been an enemy to me. I am not even close to where I should be. I find myself drifting like a log on the sea. Oh, Mr. Responsibility, hear my desperate plea. Irresponsibility has caused me excruciating pain. I wonder if I'll ever recover and make some gain. I'm like an aircraft tumbling towards the ground. Oh, Mr. Responsibility, help me turn around. Irresponsibility has been my downfall. Instead of progressing, I've had to crawl. Irresponsibility has held me down for too long. I'm terribly tired of singing the loser's song. I take responsibility for my life today. Irresponsibility will never again hold sway. Who locked the boys out? I saw some boys outside a gate. They had come to school, but they were very late. Everywhere was closed all about. So I asked the question, who locked the boys out? I saw a group on the outside. It was graduation day, but the boys had come to play. The girls were inside ready to go, but for the boys it were not so. They were outside walking all about. So I asked the question, who locked the boys out? I saw some lads wasting their lives away. For them, life was just about play. In school, they refused to learn, diminishing their ability to earn. Their decision caused them to lose their clout. Tell me, who locked the boys out? I noticed a gang at the corner of a street. They had gathered together there to meet. Only profanity came out of their mouth. I asked the question, who locked the boys out? I found some lads in a prison cell. They confided in me they were not doing very well. They longed to be flourishing and free, but instead they were chained to misery, stalked out in a desert of deadly drought. Will somebody please tell me who locked the boys out? Too many boys all around the world are on the outside looking in, reaping the harvest of their father's sins. Some are trying to get in, but their chances seem so slim. So I ask with a serious, solemn shout, who locked the boys out?
Thank you very much, Pastor Simon, the gifted author of 4 or 5 books now, and also the Who Locked the Boys Out, one of the very telling poems that he has written. Thank you very much for sharing. And I have Mona, and then I have Susan to come and share with us. Mona, are you ready? So let's give some love to Mona and thanks as she comes to do remembrance.
Where are my children? Huh? She's sleeping? Okay, you know. Well, unlike Pastor Simon, I think I am going to say it without the mic because I noticed that it's not working. Okay? I'll stay right here. The fallen rosebud. The world may never notice if a rosebud doesn't bloom, or even pause to wonder if the petals fall too soon. But every life that ever forms and comes to be touches the world in some small way to all eternity. The little one we long for was swiftly here and gone. But the light in the love that she planted is a light that will forever shine on. And though arms are now empty, our souls are filled with love and sadness too. But every beat in our heart says, we will always remember you, Cece, Grandma Mona, and Grandpa Felix.
Thank you very much, Lady Banks. I'm deeply delighted just to be here tonight. I have learned to say no, but not as yet to Mona. So whatever she asks me to do, I'm a man on the orders. So I want to share with you our two poems tonight. And one is entitled Repressive Recklessness, and the other one, Who Locked the Boys Out? Irresponsibility. This one is repressive recklessness. Irresponsibility has been an enemy to me. I am not even close to where I should be. I find myself drifting like a log on the sea. Oh, Mr. Responsibility, hear my desperate plea. Irresponsibility has caused me excruciating pain. I wonder if I'll ever recover and make some gain. I'm like an aircraft tumbling towards the ground. Oh, Mr. Responsibility, help me turn around. Irresponsibility has been my downfall. Instead of progressing, I've had to crawl. Irresponsibility has held me down for too long. I'm terribly tired of singing the loser's song. I take responsibility for my life today. Irresponsibility will never again hold sway. Who locked the boys out? I saw some boys outside a gate. They had come to school, but they were very late. Everywhere was closed all about. So I asked the question, who locked the boys out? I saw a group on the outside. It was graduation day, but the boys had come to play. The girls were inside ready to go, but for the boys it were not so. They were outside walking all about, so I asked the question, who locked the boys out? I saw some lads wasting their lives away. For them, life was just about play. In school, they refused to learn, diminishing their ability to earn. Their decision caused them to lose their clout. Tell me who locked the boys out? I noticed a gang at the corner of a street. They had gathered together there to meet. Only profanity came out of their mouth. I asked the question, who locked the boys out? I found some lads in a prison cell. They confided in me they were not doing very well. They longed to be flourishing and free, but instead they were chained to misery, stalked out in a desert of deadly drought. Will somebody please tell me who locked the boys out? Too many boys all around the world are on the outside looking in, reaping the harvest of their father's sins. Some are trying to get in, but their chances seem so slim. So I ask with a serious, solemn shout, who locked the boys out?
Asked to read, have this reading from the books of American Negro Spirituals. O black and unknown bards. O black and unknown bards of long ago, how came your lips to touch the sacred fire? How in your darkness did you come to know the power and the beauty of the minstrel's lyre? Who first from midst his bonds lifted his eyes? Who first from out the still watch lone and long, feeling the ancient faith of prophets rise, within his dark-kept soul burst into song? Heart of what slave poured out such melody as steal away to Jesus? On its strains, his spirit must have nightly floated free, though still about his hands he felt his chains. Who heard great Jordan roll? Whose starward eye saw chariot swing low? And who was he that breathed that comforting Madalic sigh? Nobody knows the trouble I see. What merely living clod, what captive thing could have come toward God through all its darkness, growth, and find within its deadened heart to sing these songs of sorrow, love, and faith and hope? How did it catch that subtle undertone, that note in music heard not with the ears? How sound the elusive reed, so seldom blown, which stirs the soul or melts the heart to tears? Not that great German master in his dream of harmonies that thundered across the stars, at the creation ever heard a theme nobler than Go Down Moses. Mark its bars, how like a mighty trumpet call their stir. The blood, such are the notes that men have sung, going to valorous deeds. Such tones they were that helped make history when time was young. There is a wide, wide wonder in it all, that from degraded rest and servile toil, the fiery spirit of the seer should call these simple children of sun and soil. O black slave singers, gone, forgot, unfamed, you alone, of all the long, long line, of those who've sung untaught, unknown, unnamed, have stretched out upward, seeking the divine. You sang not of deeds of heroes or of kings, no chant of bloody war, nor exultant paean, of arms won triumphs, but your humble strings, you touched in chord with music appearing. You sang far better than you knew, the songs that for your listeners' hungry hearts sufficed. Still live, but more than this to you belongs. You sang a race from wood and stone to Christ.
I had selected a young lady to follow that poem with this. Perhaps there will be no better time this evening than this at which to say that all the true Negro spirituals possess dignity. It is, of course, pardonable to smile at the naivete often exhibited in the words, but it should be remembered that in scarcely no instance was anything humorous intended. When it came to the use of words, the maker of the song was struggling, and we are talking about the spirituals, Negro spirituals, was struggling as best he could under the limitation in language, and perhaps also under misconstruction or perhaps misapprehension of the facts in his source of material, generally the Bible. And quite often, like his more literary poet brothers, he had to do a good many things to get his rhyme in. But almost always he was in dead earnest. There are doubtless many persons who have heard these songs sung only on the vaudeville or theatrical stage and have laughed uproariously at them because they were presented in a humorous vein. Such people have no conception of the spirituals. They probably thought of them as sort of a ragtime or minstrel song. But the Negro spirituals cannot be properly appreciated or understood unless they are clothed in their primitive dignity.
Good night, everyone. My poem is called The Dream. I see you share a dream. I see generations changed by your dream. I see your dream inspire all. The dream was not in vain. We win now the battle you fought. So free are we now. We create chains of our own, binding brother against brother, enslaving each other. The long road that here let us not forget. More painful than truth is our story. My story, your story. Thank you.
Dedicated to all of us. It's something about love. You all could sing the chorus with me because even the youngest of us know this song. In my mind, I'll see your face again in another frame of mind. But how could I be so blind? Lord, I'm blind, so very blind. But I'm a man. Can't you see that's what I am? I live and breathe for you. What else can I do? I ain't got you. If I ain't got you, baby, you don't know what it's like. Baby, you don't know what it's like to love somebody, to love somebody the way I love you. Baby, you don't know what it's like. Baby, you don't know what it's like to love somebody, to love somebody the way I love you. Thank you. Love you guys. Respect. Say respect. Respect is not free and cannot be taken for granted. Say respect. Respect. You must earn it from others. It only comes with good deeds. For respect to grow like a tree, it has to be planted. Show respect for others first. If you can, supply their needs. Practice humility, patience, and compassion. Be keen to learn from others. Do your best for your nation. Give credit where credit is due. Do this and respect will come to you.
Naylor went to say I'd like to adopt the protocol. That's not for him. What I did think about though is suppose I couldn't read. Because Dr. Fleming there just say, I want you to read this. But we are among the just over 30% of readers, chronological age readers in Anguilla and indeed across the Caribbean. Over 70-something% of our people are not reading at their chronological age today. And indeed that is in keeping with the slave master who said, the records show, that to educate the Negro is to unfit them for the work that we have for them to do. So we have some work to do in that regard. But thankfully, we here can read. Africans used to say, when a stranger appears at your door, feed him for 3 days before asking who he is or where he is from. That way, he'll have strength enough to answer. By then, you'll be such good friends. Where he's from or who he is wouldn't matter.
Coming this late gave me a lot of opportunity to think about what I was going to say, some of which I have decided not to say. But I did want to say, and I am going to say, that Black history didn't begin in the Deep South. Didn't begin with Dr. Martin Luther King, even though he's my hero. It didn't begin 400 years ago when the first enslaved Africans were brought to the Americas. And even later when they were brought to Anguilla. Black history goes back, and so the young lady read about the dream, and she said, you know, my history, my story, your story, his story. His story is really his story. And a lot of what we have learned is his story that he taught us. But I'll just refer to some of that story. And so when I went to Ghana in West Africa, I almost said 400 years ago, 4 years ago, in the year of the return, which marked the 400th anniversary of the first enslaved Africans coming to the Americas, I was in for a lot of rewriting of the narrative, and I rewrote some of it to myself, in my poetry. And so I'm going to read a bit of my poetry. Westward from Elmina. Elmina is where the slave castle is, where the door of no return is. Cape Coast Castle. Dark, dingy dungeons. Glistening black bodies. Humans sold. Black gold. Steaming squalor. Unbelievable horror. Unimaginable cruelty. Unspeakable inhumanity. Waiting ship for Atlantic trip. Door of no return beckoning, and it's only the beginning. And so at that castle, I was amazed because, you know, between Elmina and Anguilla, it's a straight line. There's no land in between, just the open Atlantic Ocean. Open Atlantic Ocean. The same sea that's washing up there is what washes up on Ghana's Atlantic coast. And there I was amazed, the same sargassum, the same red seaweed that we see out here. I saw it there. And it reminded me of the Middle Passage. Red sargassum sea. Bloody Atlantic Ocean, still stained crimson. Centuries have passed since Middle Passage, yet spirits are not free. Red sargassum sea, Sargassum's wide reach to Caribbean beach, as if ancestral ghost from African coast to Colombian playa, to Brazil's Copacabana, to Miami and Havana, Antigua and Alabama. Red Sea off Elmina, bloody trail to Georgia, Barbados and Anguilla, Atlantic trail from Africa. Sargassum's red reminder, blood of the ancestor. And so, on my return, my flight home, leaving Georgia, turbulent skies over troubled seas, same Middle Passage. 15 more minutes and we are done. It was the flight home from the return. Hardly reassuring words from the captain as stormy winds buffeted the airplane, even at 37,500 feet high. More reminders through turbulent sky, over Atlantic Ocean that brought them, and the many ships that transported them, that transported the ancestors here. Darkened skies made their protest clear. Angry clouds shed tears, caused turbulence, reminding of Middle Passage's violence. Beneath, the white caps of angry waves, as if markers on so many watery graves. The seatbelts constrain, but do not chain. 75 minutes of bumpiness here. Many scream, but have the ability to disobey the request to take your seats, please. A privilege not granted on troubled seas. No, this cannot ever begin to compare with the atrocities, the dark terror there, when they were stolen, sold and bought to distant shore to toil against their will. The turbulence is over. The trauma remains still. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, heartfelt thanks for coming out and celebrating with us another Black History Month. It was very nice. Performances were, I mean, if we had a little more time to rehearse, they always say I want perfection, but who came close to that tonight?
Yes.
She. Oh my God. You tore my heart out. But that's what it's all about. Moving our emotions. Remembering. You know? Just think back on the courage our people had to endure just so that we can have this. That's enough for me to carry on and try.
Thank you very much.
It's me, your love, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, your love, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, your love, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, your love, standing in the need of prayer. Not my brother, not my sister, but it's me, your love. Not the brother, not the sister.
PARTYAAD Entertainment. Thanks for coming to the 52nd annual Black History Month celebration by the Sunshine Theatre.